Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by me, myself, and I here on this Sunday recap show. Unfortunately, a couple of guys are out of town. They're on rehab assignments here for Cubs on Tap. A couple of guys on the shelf right now. We got Juice on the IL. We got a couple other guys out. So I am here by myself to unfortunately talk about a pair of losses that the Cubs suffered this weekend. Before we get into that, though, I made a promise on Twitter. I said I would drink a beer throughout the duration of the show. And in accordance with that, the show cannot end until the beer is gone. And we are going to have some fun with it and drink it out of one of these bad boys. And I know nobody's in here live right now, but you're going to miss out because we're crushing one of these. But nonetheless, Cubs lose a pair of games to the Dodgers. We saw them lose 9-4 on Saturday afternoon, and they followed that up, unfortunately. This thing is a lot of foam, with a 7-3 loss today on Sunday. And I think getting right into it, the first thing that stood out for me personally over these last two games was that the starters got hit, and they got hit bad. Like, Wesneski's one thing, I think, because we've seen the ups and the downs of Hayden Wesneski so far this season. But for Marcus Stroman get hit the way he did today was quite a surprise, in my opinion. And I think you'll have a lot of people that say, well, Stroh got hit a lot last year. This isn't something we haven't seen before. Sure, agreed. And this is a very good Dodgers team. Max Muncy might be the hottest home run hitter on the face of the earth right now. Mookie Betts is still Mookie Betts. Freddie Freeman is still Freddie Freeman. This is still a good ball club, all things considered, that the Cubs played this weekend, that they ultimately lost 3-4 to. Nonetheless, the starters getting hit around was not something that, A, I think Cubs fans wanted to see, but B, the Cubs themselves wanted to see, because Hayden Wesneski getting hit around 4 1/3, gives up the 3 earned. Could have been much worse, but again, not striking anyone out, not walking anybody either. But the 5 hits over that course, doing enough damage, just the 1 home run given up. But then what happens when the starters get hit? Exactly what happened on Saturday and exactly what happened today. You use a lot of bullpen arms. A lot of guys got used in these last 2 games. Hughes goes an inning on Saturday. Rucker for 2/3 of an inning. Leiter Jr. an inning. Alzolay an inning. And then Boxberger and Merriweather combined for an inning at the very end of it. And then today, Hughes gets used again. Fulmer gives up any hope of the Cubs coming back. I know we're all surprised at this point. We'll get to Fulmer in a minute. Keegan looked very good again. I think Keegan, probably one of the very few bright spots currently in his bullpen. Hughes looked good again today too, but again, gets used for a second day in a row. And I get it. The Cubs have an off day on Monday, and it's a welcomed off day. Let's be completely frank here. They need this off day coming up on Monday, especially with how this Dodgers series ended up playing out. Quick slug of the beer there. Nonetheless, this is very uncharacteristic, I think, of this Cubs team so far, because of how much the starters got hit around with the ball in the air, right? This wasn't, hey, you give up 2 or 3, just on doubles and singles. 7 homers in the last 2 games for this Dodgers team. They got after it from a power perspective. And that's very uncharacteristic of what we've seen against this Cubs team so far. They've been very good about limiting the long ball overall so far this season. So for them to come out and give up, again, 7 homers in 2 games, and this is as a full staff. This is not just the starters. Stroh gave up 3 of those today, though. It's hard to win ball games when you got a team like the Dodgers just on a power streak. We even saw it kind of in the last series against the Dodgers. The only way they were able to hit Justin Steele was through the long ball. So seeing, Wesneski get tattooed, it is what it is. I think seeing Stroh get beat up on Sunday was probably a little more surprising. Stroh's final line in today's loss: 5 innings pitched, the 6 hits, the 5 earned runs, only 1 walk, which, all things considered, is good to see out of Stroh. 5 strikeouts as well from Stroh, so the strikeout number is still there for him. But unfortunately, as mentioned, the 3 homers today just put an end to it ultimately for the Stroh show today. And I've seen a lot of panic which I think is, I don't want to use the word uncharacteristic because it's not that it's not uncharacteristic. It's early to be panicking, folks. It's April. We're still in April. Yes, can you lose divisions in April? 1000%. Are the Cubs in that position? Absolutely not. They're still 3 games above 500 even with these last 2 losses. They're still firmly third in the NL Central standings behind the Milwaukee Brewers and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who, fun little fact for everybody, I was in Pittsburgh for their opening day. And I remember telling multiple Pittsburgh Pirates fans at the end of the game, said, "Do you guys got a sneaky little team this year? Just a lot of role players, a lot of guys you never heard of, some of their pipeline talent coming up. Really, their only issues pitching and mostly starting pitching. If their starting pitchers get their shit together, they're a formidable opponent for the Cubs this season. It's not the Pirates of old where you roll into PNC and you roll over them for 3 games. It's not going to be like that this year. If you're lucky, it's the Reds. That's about it right now. You know, the Cardinals are still a hard out, even though they're not playing good baseball, which we love to see. But, there's no reason to panic. Yes, 2 starters had a bad weekend. Wesneski, in my opinion, continuing to show that he's going to be the rotation casualty once Kyle Hendricks is back. I think Hendricks gets every opportunity to be the 5 starter. I think Wesneski goes down to AAA. They tell him, here's what we'd like you to work on, buddy. You're not far away. Just keep trying. Come back. Be yourself again. But aside from that, seeing Stroh get hit, not concerning, just you knew it eventually was going to happen. But it felt like it came at the wrong time, right? It's the Dodgers. This is the one team you want the Cubs to beat up on. And they had a chance to. They really did. Big, big, big rebound win on Friday after the heartbreaker on Thursday night, which should have been a win. The Cubs at minimum should have split this series, truthfully. But unfortunately, nothing working. You put up 13 on Friday, which was good, which was great, especially against a really good pitcher in Jose Urias. Very, very, very positive was Friday's win. But you would have hoped they took that momentum and brought it in the next 2 days. And I think the long balls from the Dodgers certainly hurts. And the offense itself got going at weird times, right? I think back to Saturday's game and how that went. Really these 2 teams kind of went blow for blow until the Dodgers blew it open in the ninth. The Cubs were only down 1 going into that ninth inning, or pardon me, 2 runs going into that ninth inning. And then those 3 really just put them away and called it a day. And then it kind of happened again on Sunday. Cubs took the lead first. Dodgers tied it up in the third with the Mookie Betts 2-run blast. You go into the fifth, you get another one. Cubbies have a lead, and then a big inning from the Dodgers in the sixth. And then when you just think there's a chance, Fulmer comes in, gives up 2 in the ninth, and they ultimately have no shot of coming back. So I don't think it's reason for concern, but I certainly think you would like to see next time out for Stroh a rebound start for sure. And I think he will. I'm not terribly concerned there. We'll see Stroh again in that Marlins series at the end of next week. But you really hope that Monday's off day comes at the right time. And I think that's what we need to get after. But not all was bad. Not all was bad. We'll talk about a couple good things. At least a couple good things that I liked that I want to highlight. Yes, he gave up 1 run, but Brandon Hughes was really good in this series. Gave up the 1 run on Saturday just on only 1 hit. Walked 1, but K'd 2. Really good results. Again, for a guy that really didn't have much of a spring training. Mind you, he was hurt for almost all of it. A knee issue really, really limiting him. And then he comes back today, clean inning, 2 Ks, beautiful response. Everyday Hughes looking like everyday Hughes again. And the Cubs are going to need that. They have no lefties. We talked about it for how long about, can't wait till Hughes comes back. They need a lefty. They come through, they get it done, right? You don't realize how much beer these things hold. Anyhoodle, Brandon Hughes, big positive from this series, as well as the guy that we saw today go another 2 innings, and that's Keegan Thompson. Keegan Thompson, in my opinion, by the end of this season, is by far and beyond going to be the Cubs' best relief pitcher out of the pen. No question about it. It feels like this guy can come in at any point in the game. He can come in kind of a long relief mop up duty. He can come in for a couple of innings when you need him to bridge you to a ninth inning. He can come in dirty situations. We saw him do it in the walk-off win against the Mariners, where he comes in that 10th inning and shuts it down. Keegan Thompson, man, getting it done. Just quickly to the numbers from him: 2 innings, just the 1 walk given up, 2 Ks, no hits, no runs. Keegan with a sparkling 0.73 ERA so far this season. Gotta love what you're seeing out of him. I'm personally thrilled knowing that they have a guy like Keegan, and I think Hughes is really going to get there too. We saw a very positive weekend overall from him. In addition, what about a little Jan Power? Gotta love the Jan Power. Jan Gomes hits another bomb today. We saw him hit a homer earlier in the series as well. Jan Gomes is on this team, and we've talked about it a few times here at Cubs on Tap. He's on this team to call a good game. Be the great defensive catcher you are, be the veteran that you are, and just do your job behind the plate. And any offense we get from you after is gravy. Jan Gomes is putting together a nice little season right now from behind the plate. I mean, again, it's not sparkling numbers, but when you factor in the fact this guy's 35, he's a catcher, anything and everything that he's doing at this point is beautiful. 255 average, 264 OBP, still is a 754 OPS. That's better than his career average in over 3,000 at-bats, which is a 713. He's got 13 hits, 8 runs scored. He's got the 4 homers, 9 ribbies. He's even got a stolen bag this season. I mean, talk about Jan getting the job done at the plate. Again, I don't expect Jan to sit up there and take a ton of walks. I don't expect Jan to sit up there and hit 300. But what he's doing is exactly what the Cubs need out of him. And he has been absolutely fantastic so far for the Cubbies. Two last pieces of love from this series before we get into the bitching and moaning, I think, of the episode, for me at least. I was debating getting into it, but I think we need to get into it. So let's quickly get through the other positives. Belly still likes to hit against this Dodgers team. Did it again today, 2 hits in Sunday's loss. Good to see him step up. He was in the 3-hole today with Ian Happ getting the day off. Didn't miss a beat, drove in the early run, drove in Nico in the first inning to give the Cubs their first piece of life. Seiya obviously followed that up with a single of his own and drove in Belly. With Ian in the lineup, that 1 through 5 is magic right now with the way Belly's been hitting. And then again, gravy 6 through 9 when guys like Wisdom are getting the job done. When Gomes is providing the offense, he is. When Hosmer has even stepped up in some moments and gotten the job done. And even Trey, who I hope is coming back. Love to see Trey Mancini hit, because when that guy's hitting, that's just another weapon in your lower portion of the order that's going to get the job done. You got to love that. And then Nico Horner is Nico Horner. This guy is not getting enough love, not necessarily from Cubs fans, because Cubs fans appreciate him. Beer drink, 1 second. Cubs fans love him, and he gets the respect he deserves from Cubs fans. The national landscape does not talk enough about this guy. He's getting it done. And yes, maybe he's not going to stand up there and be the guy that gives you a 300 on base percentage. That's not what he does. But that's not what you need him to do either, because he is a catalyst atop the lineup. Just 25 years old and having a hell of a season right now. And really, he's walking probably at a better clip than most would expect him to. 355 average, which is obviously banana lands ridiculous, but a 400 on base percentage right now from Nico Horner. 473 in the slugging department. Certainly those 2 home runs on Saturday, or the 2 homers over the course of the series from Nico, really coming into play into that number. But an 873 OPS right now, by far the best of his career, if he's somehow able to manage this pace for 162. Who's to say he can't, right? I mean, he still slugged 410 last year, 327 on base, 281 overall. He kind of cooled off late in the season. But man, oh man, Nico Horner is something special. And again, I'm gonna bang the drum as long as I humanly can. Nico, we go. That's how this team plays right now. Because Dansby Swanson is going to have his ups and downs. He's been a little cold with the bat lately, still getting a lot of walks, still getting on base, still contributing. Ian's going to inevitably go through a cold stretch at some point. We've seen it with guys like Trey Mancini already. We've seen it early in the season with Belly. Belly's heated up ever since then. Nico Horner is going to be the catalyst that keeps this team going. Obviously, Seiya Suzuki hitting right now is huge too, because he's in enough of a spot where a guy like Nico Horner getting on base early in an inning is going to benefit you. But man, oh man, if ESPN, if MLB Network, if all these outlets aren't talking enough about Nico Horner, there's going to be some public outrage from the Cubs fans on Twitter and every other place where an opinion can be heard, because that guy deserves his flowers for what he's doing so far this season. He's breaking records. He's establishing marks that only Hall of Fame caliber players have done. Nico Horner is a household name, or at least should be, by the conclusion of this season. And just think, the Cubs have 4 more years of this guy. He's making what he's making for this year, which I think like $2.5 million with his ARB numbers. Bumps up to 11.5 next year. I believe it's 11.5 the following year, and then 12 the following year. 4 years of Nico Horner. And if he's just getting better, I'm cool with the Cubs paying him when he's 28, 29 years old on another contract? Sure. But man, oh man, Nico Horner is establishing himself as a part of this new core. And obviously we knew that already. But what he's doing on the field, it's not just the glove and the high average anymore. We're seeing the slug come around now. He's driving the ball, but he is just such a catalyst atop that lineup right now in the leadoff spot. And you cannot let that go unforeseen. Another beer drink. Hang on. For those that didn't see my Twitter post, the episode doesn't end until this bad boy's gone. It's just a pint can, nothing we haven't done before. But the longer you make me talk, the longer the episode goes. And friend of the program, Mr. Scott from Iowa, is going to make me talk because he's brought up some good points in the comments. And this is kind of where I wanted to get to with the show here, is some of the things that we're gonna be a little upset about as Cubs fans. And there's a couple of them, but let's establish the offensive side of things first. What is Luis Torrens doing on this roster anymore? You're not using him to catch. You don't need him to catch. You have Barnhart and Gomes for that. He's not hitting. He's not giving you what you need from a guy if you're using the DH spot on him on any given day. What is this guy doing on the roster? And unfortunately, what is a guy like Edwin Rios doing on the roster right now? Well, the power, the left-handed power is there. Great. That's all we've seen from him is one homer. That's all he has to his name this season. And I know he hasn't played a lot. That's fine. But how long are you going to give this guy to ride the bench if he's not going to contribute? He's just wasting a roster spot. He's wasting a roster spot right now. And this is the type of moment, right, where you want to start to bang the drums. And I'm going to bang the Iowa drum. Scott, I know you appreciate this, buddy, and we're going to bring up your comment here. It says it's a disgrace, the limited production the Cubs are getting from the DH. And I completely agree. Because as he follows up, they have zero power coming from the bench. Rios, yeah, he'll hit the ball a mile, but he's got to hit it first. That's not doing the Cubs any favors, right? Especially with, what things are looking like, right? Let's just talk through the starting nine. Hap brings you some power, obviously. We know what Ian is. Belly brings you some power. Great. Seiya obviously brings you some power. We haven't seen a ton of it yet, but he's hitting. He's driving in runs. He's a meaningful contributor to the offense. Third base, depending on the day. Maybe it's Wisdom. Great. We know Wisdom's power stroke right now. And that's the biggest power stroke on this team. Madrigal's not giving you the power. Yeah, he's hitting well. I'm not saying he's not doing his job, but he's not bringing you power. Shortstop, Dansby. We've yet to see the Dansby power. And I'm not calling for, Dansby's head or anything. I'm just anxiously waiting for it. I need the first Dansby bomb of the season. I feel like once he gets one, it's going to be a hot streak. Like he's going to hit 5 in 7 or 8 games. Like that's just what I'm feeling right now from a guy like Dansby Swanson. I think as the weather starts to warm up a little bit too in Chicago, that's going to help him maybe drive the ball a little more. teams are also pitching away from him. If you really watch it, that's why he's taking so many walks. I mean, this guy's getting on base at a crazy, crazy clip right now. When you consider how everything's going, and I'm pulling up his stats here as we speak, because even though Dansby's only hitting, I say only, he's only hitting 299, guys. He's got a 413 on base percentage because this dude's taking his walks. He's having good plate discipline, which I spoke to my cousin last night. And for those that are like, we don't care about your cousin, Ron. Well, meaningful reason why. My cousin lives in Atlanta, is diehard Atlanta Braves fan. And we were talking last night. He doesn't pay attention to the Cubs, you know, when besides for when I tell him what they're doing. And we were talking just yesterday, and he said, "How's Dansby doing?" I said, "Dansby's killing it." I said, "Dansby's the power's not there yet, but he's hitting like an MFer, and he's getting on base a ton." I was like, "He's walking 2 to 3 times sometimes in games." And he goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Dansby never walked in Atlanta. Never, never walked. Just he was power, hit, or strikeout." They were like, "That's all he was." And I'm like, "Well, that makes sense," because he said he signed with the Cubs because the Cubs identified things he could do better, then he wanted to be challenged. And I bet you that was one of them, was his plate discipline and taking more walks. And you're seeing it. Yeah, the guy's hitting almost 300, but he's getting on base over 40% of the 41% of the time. That's incredible. That's just Dansby being, as Johnny always likes to tweet from the on tap or on tap from our on tap Sportsnet account, automatic is what Dansby Swanson has been. But so you got some power stroke there at short. Nico, we saw a little bit of that power starting to come. Obviously, as long as he's hitting what he's doing, I'm not worried about Nico. First base, you got a little bit of power from Trey so far. We've seen a little bit of it from Hosmer, but not, you can't expect too much from Hosmer. And then from the catching position, Tucker, not really a known power hitter. Jan's been providing more power, I think, than most people expected. But then back to Scott's point here, right? They have zero power coming off the bench. 100%. If you consider Madrigal a bench bat, no power there. Rios, again, the power's there, but he has to hit the ball first. Nothing there, right? This team is not getting, and Luis Torrens isn't giving them any power. You need more power from this Cubs team. And I think it's time to start banging the drums for Kristen Farrell and Matt Mervis. I think we've gotten to that point, Cubs fans. I really do, because this series was a perfect example of, yes, in today's game of baseball, you can win with guys slapping the ball around the yard and making plays with their athleticism on the bases. I completely feel that. The long ball is still going to help. Long ball numbers are up this year, too, from a year ago. Maybe not crazy up, but they're up. The Cubs need more power. We're watching Morel hit tanks. He's on one of the craziest runs right now at the AAA level. He is just toying with the AAA level right now. You follow that up, Matt Mervis is hitting tanks. Just absolute piss missiles into the universe. These two guys from within, right? The Cubs don't have to trade anything for him. They have to trade a roster spot effectively, right? Let Luis Torrens try to pass waivers. I think he's probably going to pass. And if he doesn't, oh well. And again, Rios isn't doing anything for you. Let him pass through. Bring up Mervis, bring up Morel. Morel can play third. You don't have to play Magical there every day if you're not playing Wisdom there. Or you don't have to play Wisdom in the outfield anymore. Let Morel play as your fourth outfielder. Let him play second base on days Nico needs a blow. Let him DH maybe a little bit if it's not a Mervis DH day. Get him up here and get him going, because he's been getting it done in Des Moines. And there's nothing saying he can't do that here. And then Mervis. This dude's hitting absolute rockets. Could you imagine what Mervis would be doing at Wrigley when the wind's blowing out? And I get it. Power right, power lefties. There's never been a 40 home run season at Wrigley. Whatever. You don't think Mervis can't put the ball the other way? Come on. And for how strong he is, maybe he is the first that gives you a 40 homer season from the left side of the plate since Billy Williams. Maybe not this year, obviously, but who's to say that doesn't happen in the future? A couple more comments here from Scott on the matter. It says Mancini and Hosmer, the Hosmer thing cracks me up, are the same player, cut one of them. Yeah, I think with those two, beer drink. I think with those two, Hosmer at least brings you the defense, it's really starting to show that I think they need it, right? I think they need to stick with it. It's really hard to cut Trey. You're probably not cutting Trey Mancini. And this is where my argument comes, I think, for Torrens and Rios. Send them to the hills. Then you can bring up Morel and Mervis and not miss a beat in terms of a roster construction standpoint. He says if Ross had Nelly, Morel, and or Mervis on the bench, it's an easy call to pinch hit for Madrigal. True. And we saw that in today's game. Obviously, Madrigal grounds into the double play. He's been hitting well, but you're not going to get that grand slam out of him with the bases loaded in the ninth. That could tie you the game, right? It's just to Scott's point, he's right. They don't have the power on the bench right now. It would be nice on a day that some of these guys aren't playing, that you get a Mervis off the bench or a Morel off the bench, or you get them in the lineup. This lineup is more loaded from a power perspective if those guys are playing every day. And Scott saying about Mervis, says Mervis just hit a home run into 20-mile-per-hour winds. He's got the strength. That's why, to your point, Scott, I really do believe he's going to be a guy that can maybe deliver that 40-plus home run power at Wrigley, right? They, for those that saw CubsCon or at CubsCon, Belly and Hap and Grace spoke about how hard it is for left-handed hitters in terms of a pull because the way the wind blows out at Wrigley. Maybe Mervis is that first guy that kind of defies that and can give you 35 to 40 from the left side over the course of his career because he is just so strong and he looks like a big dude. Like you don't even need to see it. He is just built like a tank. And you don't hit as many home runs in the way he hit last season than you do now. And I believe I was talking to Joey, Mr. Ricota, our friend here at Cubs on Tap, our co-host. And we were talking about Mervis and how Mervis is hitting, but he's not seeing pitches. And maybe it was Juice. It was one of the two that I was talking to. They're like, this guy's still getting shit done at that AAA level, and teams don't even want to pitch to him, guys. It's crazy. I think we're getting to the point now where it's time, especially this team's 3 games above 500. You have a real meaningful chance to do some special shit if you get it right. And by getting it right, it means you have to be able to, win in late games like this. Look at what happened when Nelly V was up with this team. We saw Nelly V go deep and hit the grand slam and brought them back in that game against the Mariners. Nobody's coming in the lineup, especially in the lower part of the lineup, like Torrens or Madrigal or any of those guys, and giving you that ability. It's just not happening. It's unfortunate, but it's just the truth. And again, you look at a guy like Mervis, who is just cooking there right now in AAA. He's hitting the shit out of the ball. A couple of numbers for you. He's slashing 288, 410, 576. Gross. 18 games, 20 runs scored, 4 doubles, 5 homers. He's already driven in 21 runs. He's walked 14 times and K'd 16 times. He's almost walked as many times as he's K'd. Unfortunately, I don't know at what point the Cubs can sit there and say, he's not ready yet. The hell do you mean he's not ready? He hit at every level last year. He's continued hitting at AAA this year. It's not like he had some start to the season struggle. He's getting it done. Let the guy come up and show off. And if he struggles, let him go back down. What are you losing? Luis Torrens? Is he really that important? He hasn't showed anybody outside of that organization that he is. Who's to say? Scott has one more stat for Mervis. He says, has a higher walk percentage than strikeout percentage while hitting bombs. Yeah, just as we read, right? 14 walks to 16 Ks in, 20 games? Or 18 games? That's crazy. That is professional hitter numbers. I know Scott will appreciate that term. Professional hitter numbers. Yeah, his average might be a little down, but his on base is up 410, 576 on the slug. This is a 986 OPS player, guys. He's going to get a chance. It's not if, it's when. And I hope it's sooner than later. May's just around the corner. This feels like a perfect opportunity to let him come up and see what he can do at Wrigley in the near future. And I hope they do, because Lord knows this team's going to need it. I'm going to go back to the beer bat here real quick. So pardon me for those watching along. Tease yourself with some Matt Mervis highlights for 2 seconds. All right. One more piece of advice here. Addressing Friday's episode, for those that have listened, you heard about the Mankini runs, assuming this Cubs team won 3 games in this stretch. And we're counting Friday's game if we have to. We'll count Friday's game against the Marlins. It starts later in the day, but that one counts. As we stand, this team needs to win 3 of their next 4 for that to come to fruition. They could sweep the Padres, as Scott told me on Twitter. They could. You're right. They totally could. They could go win 3 in a row. They could take advantage of this off day. Go have a nice meal. Just sit around and be lazy. Do whatever you got to do on a Monday. Get a little work in the morning, maybe a little lift or something, and just come back revitalized for Tuesday's game. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be doing Mankini runs for every series win the rest of the year. Just maybe. But it's the Cubs that have to prove me wrong, folks. Just remember that. So even though people will be chiming for him, I can't promise it's going to happen. One more beer drink here. Man, those sneak up on you. All right, we're going to kill this thing off here, folks. All right, awesome. Whew, that was good. Now the episode can end. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to end it just yet. Couple of final thoughts, though, following this Dodgers series before we go ahead and look forward to the series against the Padres. Hope the pitchers can rebound, specifically Stroh, and I think he will. I think he'll be fine in his next start. Wesneski's going to have to figure it out. He really is. You can tell he's struggling. I think this Cubs team is trying to be patient with him. He is very clearly an electric player. We've seen it, so there's no question about that there. It's just a matter of, can he turn it around and continue to contribute from that 5-star spot? Because if he can't, especially following Friday's start from Drew Smyly, it's very clear right now who's going to be the odd man out when Kyle Hendricks returns. And right now, that's Hayden Wesneski. Probably going down to AAA. Going to be able to work on things down in Iowa. But if you're Hayden, you want to stay in the show, he's got to have a good rebound start as well. We'll see Hayden again, if I do my math correctly, in game 1 of that Marlins series is when we should see Wesneski again on Friday. Right. Yeah. Confirmed. That'll be when we see him next, because we've got a Smyly start coming up to round out the Padres series. We've got whoever the hell they have spot start for Tyon, because he's obviously still in the IL, the 15-day, and we'll see our friend of the program on Tuesday night, Mr. Justin Steele, against the Dad. So again, final thoughts. Learn from this Dodgers series, I think, is a good way to put it for the Cubs. The long ball still reigns supreme to some support. Ball go far, team go far. And that supports where we're talking. This team needs a boost of power, and they can do it internally. Guys like Mervis and Morel, potentially. For Torrens and Rios, very easy swap at this point, because I don't think you're getting enough from either one of those players to justify them being on the big league roster. Not with what the other two are doing down in Des Moines. And finally, take advantage of the off day. Let it be a rest and recovery day. Get your mind right as this Cubs team. You're still 3 games above 500. You're still sitting comfortably 3 games back right now of the Pirates for first in the NL Central, and just 2.5 back of the Brewers. And you got a stretch coming up that you got to take advantage of. 3 with the Padres. It's going to be a tough matchup. The Marlins are playing good ball to start the year, so you got to get through 3 with them. But then a 4-game set with the Nationals feels like a perfect opportunity to collect some easy wins. Then you're back for the Marlins, and then you got your first series with the Cardinals in early May before an off day on the 11th. So, a couple of series coming up now for this Cubs team. Really, if they can get their things together, they're going to do a lot of good stuff, and we exactly want to see that happen. So, it all starts with tomorrow. Use the off day, get right, and get ready for a hell of a stretch where this Cubs team can really try to ride some of that momentum that they brought out of that West Coast trip and apply it, into the middle of May coming up. And speaking of coming up, I am going to put this Dodgers series behind us and go ahead and preview the upcoming series against the San Diego Padres. As I mentioned numerous times already, Cubs are off on Monday, April 24th, a well-needed off day for them. They will be back on the 25th. I will be at the game actually on Tuesday. So our next Cubs on Tap broadcast will feature our boys Juice and Nick on Tuesday. They will be in relief duty for me, and then I'll be back for shows on Wednesday and Thursday before the NFL draft. Cubs and Padres, both third in their respective divisions right now. Padres will be coming in at 500, 12-12. Cubs, as we noted already, are 12-9 coming into this one. It's a battle of lefties. Blake Snell was on the bump for the visiting Padres. The left-hander 0-3 on the season with a 6 ERA, so certainly something to keep an eye on. Has not had a good start to the 2023 campaign, and unfortunately for the Padres, our friend and a friend of the program, Justin Steele, he takes the bump for the Cubbies on Tuesday. The left-hander, he is 3-0 with a 1.44 ERA over the course of this season so far. Again, use the off day, take it to your advantage, and ride Justin. Justin's been pitching lights out to start the year. I hope Justin doesn't continue to follow Stroh in the sense of following up, having a rough outing. I hope Steele comes out and just does it again. I think Justin can. I think this Padres team is a team that he can do well against. It's going to be cold too, so who knows? The ball's probably not going to fly very far at Wrigley. It's going to be a chilly week, unfortunately, in Chicago. Hopefully Justin goes out there, pitches lights out like he has so far this season, and gives the Cubbies every opportunity to win on Tuesday night. Again, I'll be at the game, so that would be cool and tough. Maybe 6 to 7 out of Justin, quite a few Ks. And a Cubs winner would be a hell of a way to start that series. I will give my Fly the W pick. Obviously, the boys not here to give theirs, but I'll give mine anyway. A guy that really I think the Cubs need more out of, and at least from a power perspective. He's giving you everything you need everywhere else. They need some power out of this guy. Getting a homer in this series, maybe a couple of deep doubles, would be really cool and tough. I'm going to go ahead and take our star shortstop, Mr. Dansby Swanson, as my Fly the W pick for this 3-game set with the Padres. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I get out of here, and as just for proof, I have finished off the beer bat, want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap, one of 2 official podcasts of the On Tap Sports Network covering the Chicago Cubs. Our friends over at Dingers will be live tomorrow night on Monday night. They will start around 8 o'clock Central Time. So be there or be square. Be sure to jump in the comments and join them for what will be a great conversation with the boys. Mitch, Jake, Jeff, and Kevin do a great job there. As mentioned, they're live every Monday. They'll be live tomorrow on the Cubs off day, so be sure to tune in with them, and we'll be back with you on Tuesday. They're at Dinger Cubs on Twitter and Instagram, and we are at Cubbies on Tap on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow both of us. I am at Loose on Tap on the Bluebird app, and follow all of my other great co-hosts at Juice on Tap, at Nick_on Tap, at Joey Knows Nothing, and at Teddy Freddy 270. Also follow our prospect guy at Bulls Guy Rob. Does a great job writing up the Around the Farm recaps on a day-to-day basis. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, you know the drill. We've got it all. It's NFL draft week, baby. For those that love the Bears, be sure to tune into Bears on Tap. We'll be live on Wednesday night. Also follow our friends over at Bears Nation Pod, as they are now a part of the On Tap Sports Network covering the Bears. It'll be a busy draft weekend, so be sure to tune in for all the great stuff as well. And yes, Cubs fans, we might be down bad after a Dodgers series loss, but at least we're not the White Sox. You've got friends that like them. We've got friends that like them. Send your friends to our friends, as our buddies over at Sox on Tap do a great job covering the disappointing Chicago White Sox. Once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media, the On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. It was a blast getting a rant for about 40 minutes. Thank you to all who joined on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. Appreciate everybody jumping in the comments as well, keeping the conversation going and giving me prompts to discuss here on air. Appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'm going to get out of here the only way we know how, at Cubs on Tap. And Scott says it best here from the comments. Fuck the Cardinals and let's go Cubbies.